Hello, ETF fans. This is Will Smith with ETF Action. Today is Halloween Day 2024. And for today's video insight, we're going to build a model comprised of the most commonly held names across consumer discretionary ETFs. Because it's Halloween, that means the holidays are somehow right around the corner. And we're going to build a model with exposure to retailers, travel companies, and other consumer discretionary stocks as shoppers and travelers gear up for this busy time of year. So to start, we're going to identify our consumer discretionary ETFs by setting a few filters on the ETF database. So I'm going to drop down here to the classification drop down. I'm going to do equity, long only, sector and industry, and finally, consumer discretionary. So we can see here, we've got 12 ETFs, 2 of which are global. So to make this easy on ourselves, I'm going to remove the global ETFs. And we can see here that we have narrowed this down to 10 US consumer discretionary ETFs. There is one small cap, which will probably not have a ton of overlap to the other 9 ETFs. But just to get a sense of how much overlap exists between these 10 ETFs, we're going to select all of these boxes and then press the Overlap Analyzer button, which is going to take us to the Fund Overlap tool. As you can see, all 10 ETFs are pre-populated, and we can see here, as we noted, PSCD, the small cap consumer discretionary ETF, does not have much exposure or overlap to the other 9 consumer discretionary ETFs. We see a few here that have very high overlap, but really, for the most part, not a significant amount of overlap amongst these 10 ETFs. We can also see that just 2 names are held in 9 of the 10 ETFs, and 9 names are held in 8 of the 10 ETFs, versus 94 names that are held in just 1 ETF. Unsurprisingly, if we scroll down here, we can see that Amazon is held in 9 of the ETFs and has the largest average weight at almost 10%. TJX Companies is the other stock that is held in 9 of those ETFs. So I'm going to head back to the database here just as a recap. I narrowed down our consumer discretionary ETFs, pressed the overlap analyzer just to get an idea of how much overlap exists between these 10 ETFs. Now, we're going to dig into the holdings a little bit more by going to the ETF Stock Screener under the Interactive Tools dropdown. So the ETF classification frame here is exactly what we saw on the ETF database. So to recapture or re-identify our consumer discretionary ETFs, I'm going to quickly set those filters once again. Consumer discretionary, I'm going to take out the global ones, press apply. So we've got our 10 total ETFs with 31 billion in total AUM. Now to get an idea of a little bit more information on these single securities within these 10 ETFs, I'm going to press that load ownership data. And we can see here that those 10 ETFs hold 422 different companies. Obviously, Amazon and TJX companies are held in 9 ETFs and have the largest ownership amongst those 10 ETFs. So we've identified our ETFs. We've filtered down to the actual stock ownership of those 10 ETFs. Now, let's say I want to build a model with stocks that are held in at least 7 of these ETFs. Now, I'm going to set a filter greater than 6. I'm going to press apply. And we can see here that that's narrowed down to 38 stocks. So I'm going to quickly build a model using these 38 stocks. First off, I'm going to export this data to CSV. For time's sake, I have built us a overlap or an upload file, by taking those tickers and then equally weighting all of those 38 stocks. So I'm going to quickly refresh my screen here and we can build this model by heading to the model builder. We're going to choose model. Model name is Consumer Discretionary Stock Model. I'm going to do a quarterly rebalance frequency, and I'm going to put my benchmark as the Select Sector Spider Consumer Discretionary ETF, which is XLY. As we know, these are the only 4 parameters that are required. So I'm going to skip the step of these other parameters and press next. Now I'm going to do my upload file, which we created using the ETF Stock Screener tool. Press open, upload, and we can see here that those 38 names populated with an equal weight. We can see that the model is going to have an inception date of April 28th, 2017. So that is the earliest common inception of all of these 38 stocks. So just to get an idea of what this model is going to look like, I'm going to press submit, and we are going to get this model built. Okay, so that's built. Now we're going to view the model relative to XLY. So we can see here, looks like consumer discretionary stocks had a down day yesterday. So this is 1 day performance of all these stocks. So the majority look like they saw some losses yesterday. From a performance perspective, we can see that our stock model, that we filtered and identified names that are held in at least 7 of those 10 US consumer discretionary stocks, has outperformed XLY on a 1-year basis and significantly outperformed on a 3-year basis. So just an interesting way to dice all of these ETFs, filter all the way down to that stock level, and then do some analysis from an ownership perspective. Just to get an idea here, we can see, unsurprisingly, all consumer discretionary names. And lastly, we can see we've got a little bit more yield. So just as a recap, we started at the ETF database to first identify our consumer discretionary ETFs. Then we moved over to the overlap analyzer, or the fund overlap tool, to just get an idea of what overlap exists in the space and amongst those 10 ETFs. Then we moved to the interactive tools, the ETF Stock Screener, to determine and identify the stocks that are held in at least 7 of those 10 ETFs. Then we built our model using the model builder. So, super easy to identify certain ETFs, certain sectors, industries, and quickly filter all the way down to single securities if you want to provide your clients to very specific and tailored pockets of the markets and different types of exposure. We hope you enjoyed today's video insight. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions, or if you'd like to schedule a demo, just email us at team@etfaction.com. Thank you.